Okay.
I'm about to tag you guys. Let me see.
Are you guys getting any feedback from my phone? I've never been on here on my phone.
No, it sounds cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I almost look like brothers. To know exactly what Roy was saying, something about when that light hits that little wall, it just happens to show. Because when I was doing that cast with him, he was talking about the lighting that was sort of.
No, it sounds cool.
He was telling me how it was. Concept of lighting. Okay. It's just, that's why I turned it on. But it just pops it in. Longer than any other place, I would say. I think it would be cool also to do it. You could open the back doors, maybe have it shooting with that backdrop. But that's what happened to a certain type of day. Because it gets dark. Trying to think.
Okay.
Maybe shooting right there. Well, what you could do is put it at an angle and have one couch me there and you on the other couch. Kind of like facing each other as opposed to both sitting on the couch. Like how JJ and them do. Right. I think you should do them. I think for those that we should do them separate.
Cool, you ready?
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. Right. I was just saying if you were going to have one together, then you could do it. Okay. I mean, I would think you could do it where you can't put it at an angle and have one if you want. Because you don't have to, since he's coming to shoot. What we should do is we do an individual, then we do run all three. Of us, yeah. Of how we all decided to go down, yeah. That would be cool. I keep thinking of shooting towards kitchen because it's that background and it's going to be brighter. Or either outside. Well, once you turn the lights on, that's the whole thing too. You never do it with
Yo.
lights on.
Where are you, bro?
But you got a lot of time.
That's my stuff on my computer.
So the wall is just the wall. So you out there door, right. But the way we shot near the screen was just. Well, don't, yeah, I was going to say, well, however you want to do it, but I'm saying you got the couches, and then you have that thing. Right, but when you come up off the couch, that wall, you're not going to be shooting that way, you're going to be shooting that way. No, I know, there's the lamp, and then there's the stick thing. But, well, that's what I'm saying, at an angle, where you got sort of like both, like here's the big couch, that's if we're all in it together, so that we're kind of organically facing each other when we're in conversation. And the funny thing is, I mean, we keep forgetting, we can do whatever we want. We can take them couches and move. If we want. I'm talking about the smaller couch.
Facebook.
From the wall.
What happened, cool?
I'm gonna have to mess with it later. I need to be able to have Facebook open so I can look at the comments and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
but I can't on my laptop.
All right, so I would like to welcome everybody. Hold on, turn this off. Good?
Yeah, it sounds good now.
Okay. Hey, welcome everybody to St. Louis versus everybody. We have two very special guests in the building tonight. If you guys are familiar, well, first and foremost, I'm Bodine.
I'm Haiku.
Haiku. And we have the directors of the critically acclaimed documentary called The Color of Medicine, the story of Homer G. Phillips in the building with us tonight. And that's based around the St. Louis Hospital here in the Ville area. So we have Miss Joyce Fitzpatrick and Mr. Brian Shackelford.
How you guys doing? Good to be with you guys tonight, man. Thank you for having us so much, man. It's a blessing.
Most definitely. We definitely appreciate you guys for joining. So first and foremost,
poster in the background.
Represent.
Rebecca, whose father featured in the film, she did the poster. So we're giving a shout out.
Shout out to Miss Rebecca too, because this documentary is based on her grandfather, correct?
he is one of the key elements. It's the way the story unfolds. He was one of the first graduates, and then her father followed him about 25 years later, and to graduate from the same medical training facility. So it's like a family legacy for them.
And her father has been fighting to want to tell this story for a long time. So he reached out to Joyce, and that's how the whole ball got started on telling the story. But this was something that has been near and dear to his heart for a long time.
How long did it take for you guys to shoot this documentary?
Wow.
Well, I would say, roughly, we say like organically, it was like 6 years. That's a long time. You can get a bachelor's and a master's.
Man, you ain't lying.
Right.
But it was a little longer than that, because when we struck up the conversation about it, it was in 2012. And we were actually working on another documentary at that time called Sunshine Needles and Me. And we were in the trenches with that. Right. And we were traveling. So we were shooting in Malaysia and all this. And so we really, when I spoke with Dr. Robinson about doing it, I applaud his patience, because he could have just gone to someone else, but he waited. Because I said, it's a great story. But I was just so busy. And then once we finished that film, got it off to festivals, and then it was on PBS and everything, then it was like, okay, now let's focus. Because that's kind of the way I am. It's hard for me. I can multitask, but when you want to put your heart and soul into it, I had to be completely done with the other one, before we get into this. And then Brian, you tell your version of
I'm just trying to think about literally the time frame, because there were years of research that went in. Then there were years, probably about the crowdsource funding, and the funding part to raise money was probably an additional.
Well, it was a few months, but the preparation is what he's saying. Because we started in 2012, the discussion to do. Then once we got everybody on board, because we went through so many things, options on how to pay for it. Right. Because Dr. Robinson's funds were limited, because he had needed care, and it was difficult to try to decide, okay, how are we going to do this? So then we all put our heads together, and so we all decided we do a crowdsource funding. So, which is always a gamble too. Right, It's always a gamble with that. But myself and Brian and Rebecca had already done previous ones, so we knew what we were doing when we went into it. But still, we didn't know if it was actually going to benefit us. But we decided to do it anyway. And fortunately, because we had so much prep time, preparing for it, email lists and just kind of really gearing people up for it. And that is which I'm sure a lot of filmmakers don't know, and I'm sure as artists, you have to start marketing before you do your performance, because otherwise nobody's going to know about it, right?
Exactly.
So even just to get the crowdsource funding, we had to market that to get people to go, hey, on this date, we're going to launch our, Indiegogo, and then just please. And so then even once we launched it, then we just had to constantly call people, email them. And so finally, I think it went on for 2 months. And so then we were able to, get enough funds to go and actually shoot, to shoot the trailer. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We did the trailer.
We were able to actually start physical production. I would say when you go crowdsource funding is basically you're preparing to get on people's nerves, because you're constantly reminding them. The one thing I would say about crowdsource funding, one thing that we learned, which was interesting, because the first campaign that we did that wasn't successful, we did through Kickstarter. Right. And through Kickstarter, you hit your whole goal or nothing. Right. The second thing we did on Color Medicine through Indiegogo. Indiegogo, you get to keep whatever money you raise and just give a percentage to Indiegogo. So that was very beneficial to us, because we were able to raise enough money to start production.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. And the thing is that when we talk about collaboration, when we decided to do it, Rebecca, like you said, everyone had this experience. So Rebecca was the one that said, hey, let's do Indiegogo because I've had success with Indiegogo.
Yes, yeah.
And that's how we found out about it because we didn't even know.
Yeah.
So then once we decided to go through Indiegogo, that was where we were able to keep all the money we raised. And we did really well. And then with that money, people still donated even after it was over.
Right.
And then we also put our own money.
Yeah, we still ended up reaching into our own pockets. Because again, it got production started.
Right.
But with documentaries, there's always the story you start telling and then the story you end up telling. Because as we started telling the story, it started growing and growing and growing and growing. So literally, every weekend we were traveling somewhere to shoot another portion of this story because we were still coming back and working our regular jobs.
We had a day job.
While we were making this documentary.
We had to take off and then fly there. Because, just like when I came to the school that you taught at, I mean, it was crazy for me because I had to, and I was by myself, I would, whenever someone would tell me about a lead, I would actually go and investigate. Because for telling me about Sumner High School, I tried to call Sumner. I called numerous times. I didn't necessarily get hung up on. It was more like people just couldn't tell me anything. I was just like, this is crazy. I wouldn't get a call back. I would just be able to leave a message. So finally, when we started shooting in August of 2016, I believe it was, at Homer G. Phillips Senior Living Facility, Ron Gregory, when I had researched him, he, I think, taught there or he did something, but we were in conversation about it. And he says, he says, you just, who is it you're trying to get in touch with? And I said, Principal so-and-so. He goes, I'll call. So then he called, and then we got through. And I had no idea it was right around the corner. I thought it was like a little ways away. So I jumped in the car and went over there, and I went to the front office and sat in the front office until Principal McNeil sat and met with me.
McNeil.
Yeah. And then once I met him, and it was also Mr. Fagbini.
Dr. Fagbini.
Yeah.
And then also, I think it was the other gentleman, and I can't think of his name right now, who also worked there. But anyway, after they met me, and then they were like, we totally want to do this. And I was like, wow. But it just took that fortitude to keep pushing because, that's the thing about being a filmmaker and being an artist, you just can't stop, and I could have just said, I'm not even going to go that route. Because if we had not gone to Sumner, we would have never met you. So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And even Sumner High School itself has so much history. And I think it's just a shame that, I wish, that there are other filmmakers that could, just focus on Sumner. And if they had the budget, I mean, if you could get a lot of these celebrities that graduated from there to help pay for it, it would be a great documentary. But, because the building is a beautiful old building, and I love the older building. Yeah. And it's funny, while that building was standing, it's like a public school type of building with the hardwood floors, and you can tell it definitely has history. It's funny how you remember those things, because when I was a kid and we were in Indianapolis, the girl who was in Sunshine News with me, her and I went back to our old public school, which is public school number 43. And we were so excited, and we walked in and we were talking like, oh my God, this is great. And everyone's looking at us like we're crazy, right? Because they're like, why are they so excited? And we said, we went to this school when we were kids. And they just started laughing. They said, we're sorry to tell you, but the school was torn down and they rebuilt it to look just like the other one.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of funny. But, it's just the whole heart of Sumner High School. I mean, or Sumner School. I just wish someone could capture the history of Sumner before it is completely gone. Because it's an amazing place.
That might have to be the next documentary.
Oh my goodness.
Definitely.
So I have to give up another 8 years of my life, to do that. I mean, if you could get people to I think because of the reputation that we started with this, I mean, it may not be as difficult the next time around, but I think it would be phenomenal. Just the whole bill. The bill should be in the documentary.
Yeah, there's definitely a docu-series there that we would like to continue, because it feels like what we've told people is the kind of like the jumping off point of St. Louis, but there's so many more stories to tell regarding the bill, the doctors, the nurses, just the people who grew up in the area. Like you're saying, the high schools, there's just so much rich history that we would love to be able to break these into like 30-minute vignettes of just a whole docu-series. I would love to even explore, again, I always bring this up, my ultimate goal, I would love to do a cold case on who killed Homer G. Phillips. I would love to do that now, because with all the forensic evidence and everything we have now to go through all that, it's basically going through, it would really turn into the who killed him and then why, because what happened, and we know who did it, but it's the same thing that happens all the time. We use us to take out us, but it's really not us. Who's really behind that? I would love, but then I think I may be ruffling a few feathers with that one. It may, but I would love to. Be great. That was one I would love to tell that as far as the docu-series also, because it was so incredible learning out who actually Homer G. Phillips himself was and what he went through to get this hospital made. I mean, that alone was incredible, and then to go through the area and to see how much the memory of Homer G. Phillips has been erased.
Yeah. Yeah. How they burned his house down. We went to where his house was. There was no house, just the empty lot. And I think it's just his gravesite. But like what Brian was saying, it's a shame that when we started doing the documentary, and, you know, just like how you know, as a journalist, you know, you come up with all your questions. And that was one of the burning questions for me. And everyone I would ask, because I don't even know, like, if when we were interviewing you, if we did, to ask, do you know who Homer G. Phillips is? And I was really shocked at how many people didn't know who he was. And when we were inside the facility, there was people working there, and I said, do you know who Homer G. Phillips is? And they were like, no. And I'm like, you work here, you don't know who he is?
Wow.
And that's one of the things that spurred us to have that section in the documentary. And that's one of the compliments that we've always gotten from people. They go, wow, you know, I learned about, you know, this man. And people who are from St. Louis but live in Los Angeles, where we live, I had an interview just a few weeks ago, and that was one of the things that the interviewer mentioned. She said, I had no idea, and I grew up there. She said, I had no idea it had so much history. She said, I'm actually ashamed.
That was like this the Homer G. Phillips Hospital. Was like the hospital that all the African Americans went to like back in the day, and they had like real like the top of the line doctors and stuff, like African American doctors there. And, Like my grandma, she worked there. Like my auntie's mom, like a lot of people that I know, like their grandparents or great aunties, like they worked there or like they were born there. Yeah, that was crazy.
Have they all seen the documentary? Have they?
My mom has, my auntie has. Those are the only two that I know because they came to the premiere. But like other people that like seen it when I post like the flyer or like talk about it on Facebook, they were like, oh, I was born there, or my grandma worked there, so they said they're gonna check it out. It's a very informative documentary. Everybody that I know that's checked it out, they enjoyed it, and they said that it's very informative. It's pretty dope. St. Louis has a lot of gems here, like a lot of great history.
You know, you guys are gems.
They really do. And it was funny. In one of the interviews that we were doing the other day, I think one of the reasons that the documentary has such a feeling of heart to it is because once we started talking to people in St. Louis, they started opening us up and turning it on to other people in St. Louis. So it was really kind of, I feel like the documentary it's a story that's told by St. Louis. All we did is put the visuals to it because they turned us on to these people and gave them the opportunity to tell this story that they've been holding inside for so long. So it's a beautiful, I think when I look at it, it has such a heart and such a connected feeling to it, but because you're talking to the people who live this and who it means, you know, who it means so much to be able to actually talk to those people and not, you know, people who are remembering those people, to actually get a chance to actually talk directly to those people who walk the halls, who, you know, can remember the smells and the sounds of the place. That really is something that, you know, stuck with me as a filmmaker, because you could hear the passion and how much this place meant to people through interview after interview after interview.
And it was interesting because this interview that we just had was in United Kingdom, in England. And I mean, that just tells you the far reach of The Color of Medicine. The fact that it really struck a chord with them, and it's also been in Canada.
You guys have been all over the world, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And now it is all over the world because it's been distributed worldwide. So people in other countries will be able to purchase it and watch it. And it is important. Like, I think when you're living your life, like, I know, like, I don't know if you still teach at Sumner, but I don't believe so. But no matter what, every place you go in your life, Brian and Jeff, even, I don't care if you're working at, and I don't want to say you have, but even if you're working at McDonald's or wherever, those moments in your life, you will never get those moments back. Those moments are moments that you're living. So you know how, like, you become friends with everybody there, and it's almost like you're a little family. Like, like, if you don't come on time, they're like, hey, you were late, or this. Right. I mean, you really have to record all of that because that's your life, and you'll never be able to go back, but you'll always have those memories, and we all do, like, from college, those days, and then just when you're working, all the people you work with, in the jobs you've worked, even in the television jobs you've worked. I mean, to this day, Brian and I both, I have friends from the day jobs I worked before I got delved, further into television. I'm still friends with all those people today. And in fact, one of the ladies I worked with came to one of the screenings in Indianapolis, and she lives in Los Angeles, but because she had family there, she flew there just to see it. And the same thing with Brian, it's like, and all of the TV jobs we have, it's almost like you drag this Swifter, and all these people get attached, and you just keep them with you for life, So I think it's important. That's how these people feel about Homer G. Phillips.
Were you guys nervous about the first screening?
Ooh.
Man, I can be honest now. Yeah, dude, nervous is not even the word. I literally, right before the screening, man, the edit just had finished running out maybe an hour, 30 minutes before it was about to premiere because it kept crashing at night. I was adding some final photos, and in the hotel it just kept crashing. It kept crashing. I'd wake up at night and it crashed. I'd wake up.
It was crazy.
So man, I didn't know what I was going to do, and then I just found this. I kept changing all the settings, and I just stayed up once, and it literally got through. It's running out while I'm getting dressed, and I had no idea when we showed up to see that many people.
Yeah, we had no idea. We, and that speaks to the testament of, and I know sometimes I make mistakes. I'm always doing typos just because I'm blind with that. But when it comes to doing the best that we can do, like in film or whatever, we bring it, and we had no idea that it was going to be all those people there. We didn't know at all. Because when I had gone there before and talked to the people, and I'll give a shout out to Aaron Williams and to Willamita. These people kind of like spoke up for us and said, hey, you guys really need to book this movie. It's really good.
Very true.
And so when I met with them, and I never thought, I said, oh, this place is very nice, but it's kind of small. I didn't know it's really small. I didn't know it. So then once we found out how big it was, because you have to go downstairs to, the whole theater.
Where did you guys host the screening at for the people?
At Missouri
History
Museum.
Yeah, the Missouri History Museum.
It's a beautiful building. But I just thought that, because, sometimes with museums, there may be like maybe 50 people, because you figure, that's what we thought. Plus the family members, because Dr. Robinson and Rebecca and Dr. Robinson's other children drove up because they're in Indianapolis, and it's not that far from Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So when we got there, we were shocked. We were floored. I mean, it was so
I didn't think
people.
all those people
crazy.
were there to see our project.
We just were like, this is ridiculous.
And then the fact that, because we had an overflow room, and the overflow room was full also. It was just, again, it was twofold. I was panicking a little bit because I'm like, man, I just got this out. I hope there's no digital glitches or anything. I haven't really had a chance to QC this. Right now it's going to be what it's going to be. But at the same time, I remember talking about the film also. In editing it, since I spent so much time with the footage, when I was done, I was sitting there just bawling because of the story that was told. So I was just thinking, if I can get just somebody in that audience to feel half of what I felt, and I'm not even from St. Louis, we might be okay. But just when I saw those numbers, that one of those lightning in the bottle experiences. I've had a lot of screenings. I've never had nothing like that. That was a family reunion. I mean, that's what it felt like. And then to look and see all of those people in the audience sitting next to each other, all of those doctors back in the same room. Yeah.
Wow.
It was nerve-wracking, man. It was. I just hope they enjoyed the story we told, because I didn't want it to be seen. I didn't want it to feel like it's us filmmakers from Los Angeles coming to tell our version of the story. It's filmmakers from Los Angeles coming to tell, the story that's being given to us. And this, was the story, but it was just still so nerve-wracking, especially knowing how much this place meant to everybody.
And for me, I didn't really, I kind of have learned over the years, and I don't know, I used to have anxiety really bad, and like major moments in my life that were big moments that I remember, but I kind of like had a headache and all this stuff because I was so nervous. So I told myself, as you get older, you mature, and I learned, don't panic, just absorb the moment. And while he was crying, I didn't even watch the movie. I did, but I was looking at everybody and everything that was happening so that I could remember. Because to me, that was the most important thing, because I knew the movie, I could see it over and over again, but I'll never see these people again. So while I was standing in the back, I just watched the people and their reactions and how they felt. And then I took in the entire thing, like, wow, this is actually happening. So, because I know we'll never, ever relive this. Because every screening is going to be different, but this is the very first one. So I really wanted to absorb that, you know? And so I didn't get emotional. I was emotional internally, but it was more about kind of making sure that I take a snapshot of this moment. And even when we look at the pictures, because, it was in the St. Louis American, and when you see the pictures, every single seat was filled, and it's amazing to me that all these people came out.
It's funny because I think back to that night, and I did get emotional, and I know the exact moment I got emotional. I was sitting up in the booth, and then we got called out for an interview. So when we got called out through an interview, I walked out through this room where we had just had a reception. It was a small reception for people eating. When I came back through and I knocked on this door to go back through, somebody opened the door, and it was standing room only. They had converted, put seats in, and it was the overflow room. And I first of all, I heard we had an overflow room, but I hadn't seen what it was going to be. And when I came in and saw it was standing room only, I was walking through and I was watching people watch the film. But what really got me was my daughter was there, and she was watching the film for the first time, and I could see her watching people. And that was just a moment to be able to sit back and take all of that in. And then St. Louis, I would have to say, I call it a family reunion because I love the way we watch movies, the way we start talking to the screen, and we start recognizing people. When it was hitting those moments, and when laughter and stuff would come where you couldn't even hear what was going on the screen, man, that you don't get those moments often. So you cherish them when they happen.
When like what for like all the up and coming film directors, what was the process of like putting together a screening for a project? Like you get everything finally done, and you want to showcase the first draft to everybody, or like the final draft. How hard is that process? Like what steps did you guys do for that?
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a lot of marketing, and it is a lot of work. But I think we were fortunate enough that, I had a background in PR, and Rebecca also as an artist, she's had a lot of exhibits. So it was really, having that team, her and I, and then Brian just, let me get the work done, so we just let him do that. Because I think if Brian had to participate in how do we get the invitations, how do we get he probably his head would explode, you know. So you know, unfortunately, I'm not an editor or anything like that, so I can't do what the magic he does. But the magic that I know how to do is to get people, you know, to pay attention. And you know, from the time that we started, you know, our social media, you know, just getting the word out there. I mean, there was many times I can think back where I was on the phone, like calling your news office, I think it was Fox 2, saying, hey, you know, we've got a really good project. Maybe you guys might want to come and check it out, you know. And we finally get a call back and they're like, oh, yeah, that's great. We'll try to make it and all that. And then they end up coming, you know. But it's like, it's a process, you know, and you have to constantly like be out there waving like, hey, here we are, here we are. But once one entity gets it, and then, like you said, word of mouth, once people hear, oh, wow, it really was good. Then all of a sudden the phone starts ringing. Then we're getting, you know, people interested. We even got a call from your local PBS affiliate. And we met with them. They were very nice. And we wanted to actually air the documentary on their PBS channel, but we just weren't able to get the deal worked out in time. But just the fact that we went from obscurity to everyone reaching out to us about the film. And so that was great. But it is a long process. It's doable for sure. But as an independent filmmaker, you are everything. You have to do the PR. You have to do the social media. You have to, you know, whereas, you know, when you got big budgets, you know, they have people to do all of that, you know. And I think that's why it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's not impossible either. You know, if you start, give yourself enough time, you can do it.
I think that's the biggest lesson that we learn. I think like a Cliff Notes version of that is you got to start early. Wherever you're thinking about starting, I would say 3 months before that. If you can get out to 6 months, because
I would say 6 months.
It's there's so much planning and so much things that are going to change. So I don't think you can really you can't adapt your plan if you don't have a plan. You're always stuck. Well, where do I start? Well, where do I start? That's another thing. You have to pick a point to start, and you got to be. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to make some mistakes, because to me, sometimes planning can become procrastination, because you can keep planning. I'm still planning. But when are you going to start? Because now that you're ready to start, guess what? You have to change your whole plan, because everything has changed because you waited so long. So as an independent, I would say start early. And then secondly, you got to build a village. You got to build a team behind you, because we wouldn't have been able to do this just, you know, by ourselves. It's reaching out and, again, finding other creative people that can do things that you can't. And it's that team, because once you have a small group of creatives that really believe in the project, that filters over into how you're going to start to bring more and more people in. But I would rather have people who really believe in the project than people who are just getting paid to be a part of the project.
They're not going to put a heart in
because they're going to fade pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you know, we were fortunate enough, Brian and I, you know, when we started even filming, that we said we're going to be organic, and we actually brought in, you know, PAs from St. Louis, and we're still friends with them to this day. You know, they were really cool. Cherie and Alana and the young gentleman, I think his name was Jeff, and you know, they all worked their butts off. They all did a great job, and you know, we were happy to have them on board. And they're all filmmakers in their own right. You know, they're doing their own thing, and they're really doing well, which is great. You know, and like what Brian was saying, you can't procrastinate, even though I'm in procrastination, but at the same time, you really do have to start early and to get it done. But it is still a lot of work, but it's work.
Yeah, you know, one thing I was thinking, you know, as an independent, on the same thing with starting, sometimes we're so afraid to start because our view of failure is wrong. It's not, or if you didn't get it to where it needs to be, first of all, I think you got to get the bad ones out. You're not going to start and be perfect at what you're doing. You have to get those bad ones out, but we're so afraid to start and wanting to be perfect that we don't move. And then also what happens, which was I think one of my biggest problems, was once I had started and I had been creating so much, I had been told, oh, this wasn't it so much, there would be a lot of stuff I'd create, I wouldn't even put it out. I would just put it on the shelf and go create something else. Once you are creating enough, the biggest thing is you have to be honest with yourself and where you are. You can tell people anything. You can, like they say, fake it till you make it. That's cool, but eventually you're going to have to lay down your cards and you got to have something in your hand. If not, you may not ever get a chance to get back to that table. So it's just being honest with yourself on where you are and where you're lacking. I always come from a sports background from playing baseball. One of the first things we do, you expose your weakness, because after practice, you stay and you work on that weakness every day till that weakness is no longer weakness. It becomes one of your strengths. Mm-hmm. You do the same thing in your career, but you have to be honest on what that weakness is. Mm-hmm. And then the biggest thing is, once you have put in the time, nobody is going to come and anoint you and be like, hey, you know what? I seen your stuff. It looks good. You the one. You ready. That's where you put the hours in and be honest with yourself. You'll see it in your work. You'll see that progress. But I think, especially as independent filmmakers, and especially as minorities, we're so looking to be anointed by the next person and told, usually by somebody who's on the other side, that, you know what, now is your time and you're ready. You're going to be waiting forever. They're not going to come and tell you that. Mm-hmm. What happens is, you've been grinding and putting your stuff out so much, all of a sudden your work rises up to their level and they have no choice but to acknowledge you, because you're in all the same rooms that they are all the time. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the biggest advice for independence. It's that hustle has to be ruthless. Like they say thick skin. No, you have to have, alligator. It's a whole different level of coding, because when people when they tell you no, they're not telling you no. They didn't say you suck, your project sucks, we don't like your mama. You didn't fit the mold, the cutout that they have. It's just it's a cutout. But we have the time now to create our own cutout and present it in a completely different way. But they will never see it. They're like, wow, I never looked at it that way. Exactly. That's why there's so much power in creating your own story.
Facts.
Yeah.
We got a question in the comments. So Lamar Harris asked, how when you talked about finding genuine support versus hiring people, how did you go about finding those kind of people?
Oh, okay. Again, what was really great, which was actually what I was about to comment. That's a great question. Mm-hmm. Once we got there, and I would say that the way Brian and I work, and Rebecca, because it was the three of us that really were the engines to make this work. Right. Everyone brought something unique to the table. I'm kind of the gift of gab, sort of. I actually am really good about meeting people, and because again, that was part of my promotional job, where I had to actually go up and talk to the mayor or the governor. So I have no fear. I'll come up and talk to anybody. So that was part of it. And when we started the interview process, the different people we met, once they were impressed with what we were doing, they would just immediately put me in touch with the next person. So when it came to looking for interns and people to work with, we did it through, we started with an ad, and the person that we got wasn't horrible or anything, but then we realized, we want to try to be a little more organic about it. So we started asking like Aaron Williams, who's part of For the Bill. I don't know if anyone's familiar with his organization, but he really stepped up and helped us. I mean, I still thank him to this day. And he said, so what do you need? And I wish more Black people were like that. It's like, it's not like we were doing something negative. We were trying to shine a light that's positive. And to have a Black man like that, well-educated, always he had his backpack on and his hat, and that's the thing too. He wasn't walking around in a suit and tie. He was just a regular dude, and he's like, Joyce, what do you need? What do y'all need? And so when I told him we need interns, we need this, he's like, okay, let me put you in touch with Dan Paris. And Dan Paris, it was like 3 or 4 emails of these people that had young people to work with. And so I went and I looked at Dan's organization and its Continuity STL, giving them a shout out. And I looked at through, and what really amazed me is Dan is white, but most of the students were Black. And I was like, what? This is actually cool. So I said, I definitely want people of color to be working on this movie. So that's what we did, and I found my interns that way. And so anything else that we were doing, when you're saying about just basically hiring someone and then getting it that way, I think we got a better quality of people when we went through the people in St. Louis that actually knew the value of the bill, as opposed to just putting out an ad and getting anybody. Right. So hopefully that answers.
Yeah, I think it goes back to getting the people that are a part of the story to tell the story. because we could have gotten a whole crew from Los Angeles, flew them out, and just told the story ourselves. But you get a different vibe when, again, it's not us telling the story; it's the people from St. Louis. So start building your village there. If I was to go someplace else and tell another story, maybe a music documentary, first thing I want to start doing is building people who are a part of that musical time in my little village, because they can give you so many nuances that you aren't aware of, and also they're going to open the door to other people who want to tell the story. Because the moment we came to Homer G. Phillips and started interviewing people, it was the people that we interviewed that were turning us on to all of, I mean, the historic names that we would have never thought we could get in contact with them. But it was because, again, the people from St. Louis were telling those stories. So you got to ingratiate yourself with, I think, the tribe of the people who, there's always a similar group of people trying to tell the same story you are. The ego is what we have as independent filmmakers. Well, I got to be the first one to tell it. I got to be the first one to tell it. No, and prime example of that is Joyce and I met competing against each other, competing against each other in film festivals. We're the prime example of that. But now combining our forces, what we were able to do as, you know, together, because seeing what she brings to the project, what she brings to it, and being realistic, knowing that, wow, that's a side that I'm lacking on. So if you can put those two together, it's that type of thing. I'm looking at it more that way instead of you have to do it all by yourself.
Yeah, because the like even with Dr. Robinson, him and I sat and had conversations, just general conversations, like just catching up, because I hadn't seen him since I was a teenager. And we just were catching up. And so then in the middle of catching up, he'd say, hey, Joyce, you know, I'm going to send you all these doctors that I think you need to research. So then I'd get on and research and go, well, some of them have passed away, Dr. Robinson. He said, okay, no matter, you know, that's where the seed was planted. And then once we got the key doctors that, because him and I really sat and talked about that a lot. Like he goes, well, some of these people are in Indiana, some of these people are in St. Louis, some of these people are in Kentucky. So we just kind of delved into that. And then once we got going in St. Louis, then we met Dr. Ross and all these different really amazing doctors and nurses. And, you know, there's, and also people who worked in the admin office, you know, just a lot of really nice people that really had some amazing stories to tell. And it's not just about the doctors and the nurses. I just want people to know that. It's like a hospital is run with janitors, cooks, everybody. And one of the authors, Mr. Wright, who is featured in our documentary, that wrote those series of books about St. Louis, you guys might have heard of him, Dr. Wright. He said his mother, I believe, and I may be wrong, so hopefully if someone sees this, I might be quoting it wrong. I don't know what job his mother had. I keep thinking it might have been as a cook, but I don't want to say that because I don't know. But that's how he started. He told that story, that I used to go to Homer G. Phillips all the time because my mother worked there. And one of the DJs that we interviewed, Doug Eason, he said the same thing. He said, I used to go to Homer G. Phillips as a kid all the time. And it's like, these are the people we're interviewing. And I just thought that was amazing to be able to have these people relive that history.
Yeah, it's such a rich history. It really is. Yeah.
One thing that I admire about you guys is how you put young film directors up under your wings and had them help you guys with the project. How important is it to what's the word?
Mentor?
Yeah, like how important is it to have like mentors or like mentor young up and coming aspiring film directors or anybody in a, you know what I'm saying, business that they're pursuing? Cause like us, like as artists in St. Louis, like my generation, we pretty much had to learn and do everything on our own. Like we didn't have like any OGs or like anybody to really tell us what to do or not to do. We had to learn from trial and error. But just seeing like everything. But like just seeing how, you know, you guys were mentoring Lana and, you know, others. Lana now has her own documentary that's coming out, and I'm pretty sure like you guys had a big part in getting her to, you know what I'm saying, pursue that. So yeah, so how important is it to have like mentors and mentees?
Well, for me, it was really important, and I'm so proud of Alana and Cherie because they both are really doing really well with documentaries and also with just being out there. The reason why I personally feel that I think it's important to do is because, as you said before, when I was coming up, when I was you guys' age, you know, and the thing is, Brian always said, he goes, man, I should be killing myself. Because, I mean, I was in the room with some of the most iconic people, that everybody that you can think of. I was like sitting there in the room with these people. Like, I always tell the story, I was actually on the set of Living Color before it was picked up as a TV show. It was a pilot. And I was like a kid, you know, I was still in college. And I'm standing up there talking to Tommy Davis, and he was doing the warm up, and they introduced me to him. And my old boss, her name is Faye Hauser, and she's married now. I forget what her married name is, but Faye was actually an actress in Roots and a few other. She's on Young and the Restless, and she was my boss. So I was her PA, and I was meeting Keenan, David Alan Grier. I met Jim Carrey. I met, you know, Sean and Marlon sat behind me during the pilot. Okay. Oh, wow. And I'm saying all these different people I met, but when I started to do what I wanted to do, that none of my peers, everybody was so much in competition with everybody. Instead of saying, hey, let's all try to do this together. I swear, you know, I never had an opportunity to have someone to mentor me. And I always said that if I ever got an opportunity, you know, I would do it. Because when I started working at BET and all these different places, I was kind of on my own. I didn't have anybody to like go home and say, hey, you know, let's put this together, this strategy, and do this and that. You know, so it was always just me. And I always said I'll never, ever do that again. For me, I will always be a beacon for someone else. And I'm not even on the level of a lot of people that I was a peer with. But and they still don't help people. I hate to say it, but I will not be one of those people. And that's why I chose to do it.
I think it's definitely, it's very important. When I think back on my career, it's weird. I don't think I have one person that I can point to that was a mentor, but I can point to moments where I think people went out above and beyond themselves to show me things that they didn't need to show me, that I don't think to this day they know how influential it was. And I think one that the biggest one was when I went to film school. When I was in film school at Loyola Marymount, productions would always come and, you know, grab film students because, one, we worked for free, but it was also to get that exposure of being on a film set. And I worked on the Street Fighter soundtrack, Ahmad, Razkaz, and Saphir.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And to this day, I'll never forget, because the director of that, he was doing his first music video, who he's blown up now, was Francis Lawrence. Francis Lawrence now has directed Hunger Games. I mean, he's just done some really, really big films, but that was his first thing. It was his first music video. And on working on that music video, I happened to find out that he graduated from the same film school I did. So I remember when I was working on the set as a PA, one thing you do, you never stop. You always look busy. Even if there's nothing to do, you're looking busy. And I remember he called me. I remember I was doing something. He asked me what I was focusing on. And I told him it was directing. So he didn't say anything. He just let me keep working. And then I remember we were doing these setups, and he told me to drop everything I was doing and come over. And I'm just thinking, okay, now this is about to be a bad situation because he's making a difference between me and the other PAs, and I got to deal with these PAs. But he found out I was a director, and man, he pulled me over and had me look at the scene, asked me what I thought, had me look through the lens, explained to me what he was thinking, what he was. Dude, that shit was invaluable. I can't, to this day, I don't even know why he did that. And he didn't do it then. For every shot that he set up on the music video for the rest of the shoot, he'd always set it up. Brian, come over here. Look at this. What do you see? What would you do different? It really, I mean, that to me just really kind of gave me the confidence to keep doing what I was already doing. And he didn't know me from Adam. He just knew that I was going through the same directing program he was. So let me give him some tools.
That's dope.
He's awesome.
That's the kind of thought process I have right now, especially with working with young filmmakers. Giving them, here, let me give you the tools, because there's no telling what you could do with this. But for me to keep it to me and just hold it to it makes no sense. To me, it's not calling. When they say you have a talent and you have a gift, it's because you can share it with somebody. If you keep it to yourself, it's not really a gift.
Fact.
Yeah. I wanted to highlight that. what I find is different, and this is a thing that we could talk about, is, you know, with him being a male, believe me, when I was trying to, because that was my goal when I was getting out of school, was I was going to be one of the first Black women film directors and music video directors. And I actually started doing that, and I just, you know, it was extremely difficult because I did this music video and I was the director, and I had like mostly the male crew because women just weren't on the set that much, and I got, you know, hell, you know, and I had to actually become a quote unquote bitch just to finally get them to do what I need them to do. But once they saw that I knew what I was doing, then it was fine, but it was just a really difficult road. And as you can tell, now you're just now starting to see more women directors. You know, it just wasn't like that, like someone to pull him to the side. I didn't have that. You know, I had to just make my own way.
I would say the biggest piece of advice I could give to people looking for mentors, and you definitely need a mentor, but be willing to meet that person halfway. Be willing to show something for a person to willing to invest some time in you, because if you expect mentors to come all the way your way, that's not gonna happen. I think you definitely have to be able to meet these people halfway and let them know. Prime example, I think he was willing to show me what he showed me because I was already out there volunteering my time. Yes, I want to learn this, and I'm going to school paying this ridiculous tuition. Hold on, let me give him a little some things that he can possibly do something with. And if he does something with it, great. If he doesn't do anything with it, it's on him. He dropped it, you know, just as simple as that. But that opportunity, that's all half of us are looking for, man. Is that opportunity in any gym that somebody can drop in your ear, especially somebody who's already experienced what you're trying to go through. They can't really lessen the bumps, because I feel like some of that is like, you know, when a caterpillar busts from a cocoon, if you get too much help, he's not going to be able to fly. Right. So you need to go through some of those bumps and bruises. And I think we are so afraid. Bumps and bruises are not a bad thing. It's again, you learn how to stretch your wings and fly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I definitely learned a lot from that experience, that, you know, being a woman, you know, I just had to really bring my A game. Because everybody's going to scrutinize you, and everybody's going to tell you, you know, oh, why are you here? And all of that. And, you know, I was doing the Me Too thing before it was a Me Too thing, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like Brian was saying, you realize what your strengths are, you know, and like when we started working together, we met, like he said, we were competing in festivals and all that. And I had done another documentary where a mutual friend that we have is how we actually met. Yeah. Because the guy that was my cameraman on this other project was saying, oh, wow, you need to meet Brian because you guys have a lot in common. And, you know, I think you guys would do well together, working together. And I actually was like, I'm sick of hearing about this dude, Brian, you know. But, and we were just kind of in competition with each other. Right. But I realized where my weaknesses were. You know, I used to shoot and edit and everything on my own because you have to learn, right? Yeah. And where I think I made a mistake later on was I kind of went away from that, and it was difficult to get back into that. But my strengths were I could research the hell out of something and also could talk to a bunch of people. Yes, so that was how you know, that was my strength. So that's like when you look at Homer G. Phillips' documentary, like you were saying about it being so well informed and well informative, and you know, that's coming from my background of digging until I can't dig anymore. And the look of it is coming from him because that's his expertise. So I think a lot of people, if they want to walk away from this podcast, knowing that you do have to come together, you know, and you also have to be humble enough to know you're not perfect, you can't do everything, and that there's going to be somebody out there that can do something better than you. And why not bring that person on board? Like they say, you know, even with Steven Spielberg and everybody, you're only as good as your team. It's not, Steven Spielberg doesn't do everything. You know, he found great people to work with. And yes, he had a great story, but in order to bring those stories to life, he had to hire people to make them be what they are.
I would say, especially on a story like this, because they say we can't work together in general, and the difficulty of the black man working with the black woman. Well, I disagree. Look at the story that we were able to tell. But again, I think also we were able to tell a story like that because we weren't out to try to prove that to anybody. It's out to go do what you know you can do. Because again, it's just like going to do something for money. When you're out doing something to prove a point that you can do it, it's not coming from the same place.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I think experience too, you know, because we both, when we even met, I had like 10 or 15 years of film experience before I ever met him, and he did the same.
Yeah.
So when we came together, it's like a lot of times the compliments that we get from people that have worked with us, it's always shocking because I always go, you guys you knew each other before you started on this film? And it's like, yeah, we've known each other for years because we work so well together. Like we just don't, you know, there's no issues, you know, I'm not fighting him or doing anything. It's like, I know what I need to go do and he knows what he needs to go do. So we just go get it done. And then we come back together and then it makes the film. So
and we also, again, I think it's just a thing. When you're finding your tribe, you definitely need to know how the people around you work as well, because I think we work well together when we do projects. And then there are also certain projects that I may want to do or she may want to do that we do separately. Like she has a great short film that's coming out now.
Estilo Americano.
That is, completely different from anything that I've done. But again, it's okay to support. Again, that's one thing you have to do for, I think, independents trying to get in. The first thing when you're going to somebody to try to do, when you're trying to find a mentor, instead of asking them for something, you have to start by supporting something that they do.
Right.
It starts from that because people are more eager to, I think, help and lend hands when they see, oh, you've been supporting the stuff that I've been doing. Again, you don't come to somebody's house for dinner empty-handed. You put that investment into what they're doing, where you can talk to them about their projects. Again, meeting them halfway, and sometimes you got to be willing to go more than halfway.
Yes, sir.
And that's what, you know, which is really good because this project, like Brian was saying, you know, we also do the projects independently of one another. Because he works on other people's projects all the time that I have absolutely nothing to do with, and vice versa. And the one he's talking about, it's an amazing project. It's got an amazing team. The director is Dutch, and the key producer is Dutch. I was one of the executive producers. I helped get the film made, but at the same time, I didn't have to go and do what I normally do. But I was still there to support them. And I mean, they have some amazing actors, and it is like, it's a really top of the line film. And it's going to be coming out soon. But it's just being able to collaborate on a project like that. It was amazing, you know, and I really liked having that diversity because of being able to work on Hispanic projects, you know, Asian projects, Black projects, not to be just limited, you know, and I really appreciate that. So.
Exactly.
We I got one more question for you guys. So give me 5 important gems that you will want to give upcoming directors.
You want to go first? Or?
Do you know what you want?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is, 1, you got to know yourself and be honest with yourself. Okay. 2, again, be willing to say at this point in your career, you got to get the bad ones out. The third one is, do not fear failure, because it's not failure. That word should not have the negative connotation that it does. I think we set ourselves up for failure because we've set a bar that we haven't learned how to we haven't even learned the steps to approach it, to achieve it. So I think that failure, again, it goes back to getting the bad ones out. Don't view failure as failure. It's a process of success. You're learning the process. You're learning the steps needed to succeed. The fourth one is, sometimes you got to be willing to say yes and work for free to just get in the room, because that's the most important thing. You got to get in the room. And the fifth thing is, don't wait for other people to validate your work. Know your own worth. And that almost is I think a combination of, looking in the mirror and being honest with yourself. But again, this is a very, very competitive field. As an independent in any market, you're always going to be competing against somebody. So this person that you're waiting to validate you is not going to validate you because he's competing against you. So yeah, know your worth, and also, don't be afraid to support the next person. Yeah.
And then for me, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Miss Joyce. You're fine.
Oh, thank you. I have mine written down. I said, believe in yourself because no one else will.
Yes, ma'am.
No matter what you do, they're not gonna believe in you. Everybody's gonna be trying to stab you in the back, probably. Keep your nose to the grindstone and keep, creating, because like Brian said, even if your first project isn't that good, just keep going, because eventually you're gonna stumble and do something right. So just keep doing it. Say yes to everything, because you never know where it will lead you. Yeah. And a friend of ours who's a great writer, Wesley Duarte, taught me that. And I worked on an independent film that I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. And I'm still friends to this day with the director. He's an amazing guy. So you always say yes, because you never know where it's going to go.
Yes, ma'am.
And you can film anywhere, and I do mean anywhere. Don't ever think that you can't get a location or go, because we are evidence of it. We said, let's go to Atlanta, let's go here. Yeah. And we've never filmed there before. So never, there are no limitations. The only limitation is your mind. And then work for free and you will gain a fortune in knowledge.
And how
say that one again.
Yeah, how important is it?
I said work for free and you will gain a fortune in knowledge.
It's an important trait. That literally, I mean, I think it was one of the lessons, and again, this film is a testament to that, because we did this film for free. Yeah. Where that was one of my hesitations to it, because I'm just like, wait a minute, we don't have any money. How are we going to tell the story now? Okay, now we got to go raise some money to tell this story. But then when I started seeing what the story was, I saw the importance of getting the story out. It's more important that people know the story. We'll figure the money out. And then again, once you wrap your mind around that it's not about the money, 9 times out of 10, the money will come.
Yeah, because it was crazy when we were doing the film. I mean, there were just days. I mean, like, again, because we all had jobs, I was doing my PR. I had to, get up and go and do a huge event. And as soon as I get back to my office, I'm on the computer going, oh, God, I have to send out these things for the film. I mean, we just worked and worked and worked and worked. It's like we just never gave up.
So like, even when you guys were traveling back and forth to St. Louis all those times, and y'all still have regular 9-to-5s?
Yeah,
wow. yeah, definitely. And it's almost like, though, the way you look at it, though, and just so that your listeners and viewers know, I was working a PR job that was very flexible and, paid me very well. So it wasn't like a regular job. And my boss was when he saw the work that I did, and again, I always say, do a good job on the job you got, because that will give you an opportunity, because they loved my work so much that when I said, hey, I got to leave, they were like, oh, you go ahead, Miss Filmmaker, go do your thing. Because I made them look good while I was there. And believe me, it wore me out. But at the end of the day, I had that flexibility. Right. And everyone doesn't get that. And the same with Brian. He was already working as an editor in TV. So it really wasn't, his job was fairly flexible. Yeah, but I still say, no matter what job you have, if you do a good job, somebody will believe in you and turn the other cheek. Because when I was going to college, and right out of college, I got a job working for PBS, but I still had my day job. When they saw my name roll up on the credits, my old boss, I went to work and they were like, oh, I saw that special you did. Oh my God, we were so proud. So you need to take off again to go do it. And I'm like, yeah. So, there are people who will support you. But you definitely have to do the work.
Definitely. And there's something too, because I'm a big proponent about, what you're going to do. You got to put it out in the universe, let people know, they'll hold you accountable. But sometimes you got to be careful who you talk to also, because people know me. When I get quiet, I'm working on something, because I'm not sitting around telling everybody what I'm about to go do. I'll just rather go do it. And I think that's the biggest, if I could give any advice to anybody, it's start. Quit talking about it and start. Yep. It's almost that I was thinking about it. Start is really stop talking about it and really try something. Just stop talking about it, because especially in LA, everybody's a filmmaker. Everybody got the story. Everybody got it, but they're not taking the steps to go start and do something. And it's there. I don't think that we are coming from a realm where, wow, you just have this unique idea that nobody's ever thought of. Somebody's thought of something similar to that. And whoever starts their idea first and gets out is the person that's known for putting the idea out. The next person is just seen as a copycat.
Yes,
and it could have been your idea first, but you didn't take the time to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I try to tell like a lot of my students that want to pursue like music or videography or photography. Like you just got to do it. You just got to start. And then once you start, then all the pieces will start to come together.
Mm-hmm. And someone will open the door for you because two more stories right quick. One, there are no excuses. Now you have a phone that can shoot, edit. There are no excuses. People can make. You see how people are doing TikTok and all that. I mean, they're all creative. There's something that happened. And a story that I have to say that started this film, which is very strange, but I always say there's only God. That's the reason why it's happened. When Dr. Robinson, when we decided, okay, this is what we need to do, and blah, 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 I was at my day job. And like I said, it's a job where I was kind of had a lot of flexibility, but we were at this big event. And they had a panel of guests. And part of my job was to go and cover this event and talk to the people who were being, who were going to be the guest panelists. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting in the audience, right? And the guy gets up and he introduces all of the panelists, right? So he gets to this one woman and he names her. And then he tells a little bit about her background. And he said, oh, this woman, her name is Robin Billups. And he said, and she's originally from St. Louis, Missouri, but she lives in California now, blah, 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 blah. And so I don't know what made me do it, but when we had the break, I got up and I said, excuse me, ma'am. I said, but I need to talk to you. I said, I'm a filmmaker on my own time. And I said, but I wanted to find out, do you know anything about Homer G. Phillips? This woman looked at me and said, you got to be kidding me, right? And I'm like, no. Why you say that? She says, honey, I not only know about Homer G. Phillips, I was born there, my family, my father, or my one of her, I think it was her father or someone was a big musician at Mr. Billups. You might have heard of him. He wrote all these songs and all that. She says, how did you know to ask me? I said, I didn't. I just assumed you were from St. Louis and you might know somebody. And she was our very first interview here in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Because I happened to ask her.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Was crazy.
Testimony.
Yeah, definitely. Closed mouth don't get fed, especially ours. Yeah, that's real. Yeah.
Being at the right place, the right time.
Yeah. That applies, like everything that you guys have shared, I've just been noticing that it applies to so many aspects of this business, of any type of entertainment business, like us being coming from music and getting into media. I can attribute everything that you guys are saying back to just how Bo and I, like, we could have easily looked at each other as competitors and never met. And, Bo could, and even after all this time of knowing each other, Bo could have had, any type of media opportunity that he had or myself. And we never shared that with the other person because what we thought or what we assumed. And then we asked the other person, it's like, oh, I got all this knowledge and all these resources that would be perfect for that.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think you hit it right on the head when you're talking, and we sometimes lose this as independent artists because we get all about the art, whether it's a music, art, film, it's a business. Because you said the music business, the film, it definitely is. There's a business because, and I think sometimes we want to deal with the artistic side and then take care of the business. I think once you take care of the business, it allows you to be more artistic.
Yeah,
because you got to get that. You got to get that business out of the way because if you don't deal with it ahead of time, it's going to come back and bite you. It'll always be around. And then I think you really aren't free to just be 100% artistic and try stuff that you never would have tried before because you're thinking, well, the business isn't tight and this is the one that has to make it. Once you're in that thought process, you've already set yourself up for failure. Because this is the one. When I hear people say, "Oh, I'm working on my baby. I got my baby." No, you have a story. You need to tell that story and get that story out and create another one. Because the most valuable lesson I ever learned is when somebody's investing in you, they're not investing in that one song. They're not investing in that one film. They're not investing in that one book. They're investing in you as the creator of that story, and that you can go create that story and that song and that book over and over and over again.
are.
Yeah, exactly. It's you. What you're presenting is not the product. That's the piece to get you in the room to sell yourself. I'm going to make you love this piece that's getting me in I'm like the piece that's getting me in the room. But at the end of the day, when I'm in the room, I need you to love me because I'm the product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. When we see Ava DuVernay speak, and this was before she grew up even as big as she is, but regardless, she was on a panel of guest speakers. Well, actually, she was the key speaker, and people were asking, questions afterwards. And this one student got up and said, Ava, I don't understand, how are you able to get these movies done? This is before she started doing blockbuster movies and all that. Yeah. And I said, tell him, Ava. She said, I had a day job, and I took the money from my day job, and I shot my movies on the weekend. Yeah. That's how I got it done. It was no miracle. It wasn't anything special. If you got a job, especially if you're young and you don't have any responsibilities, what else you doing with your money? Instead of running out buying a car with it, drive the hoopty and go take that money and go do what you need to do, right? Why waste money on the clothes and the nails and the hair and all of this? Go and use that money wisely. And then once you've done that, then you can go back and get the nails, the hair, and the fancy car because now you have the money to do that.
That's very true. It's hard to convince somebody else to invest in you when you haven't invested in yourself.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was told.
Why do you guys think like artists or film producers, like they're too like prideful or ashamed to like say that they have a 9-to-5 or too prideful to like get a job?
Well,
I think it's the what it is. It's the stigma of being a Hollywood a filmmaker. It's how the story is always told to us. It's always like, oh, this person was an overnight success. They did this and they were just discovered here. And everybody goes that route because that story is much more sexy. It's much more headline grabbing than I was busting 9 to 5. I was taking the check. Because you know what? It's a long road to do that. That's a long road. And people want the shortcut to everything. Okay, I see you had to do it this way. So there's got to be a shorter route to it. Sometimes, no, there isn't. Because I don't see how you're going to be creative if you can't keep the lights on to see what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So you have to go that route. But it's not, I've heard so many people say it's not a sexy story at all. They'll even tell you about the grind that they've done. But in the interview, we're going to cut all that out. And they'll tell it as you did this one thing that was discovered by this one person, and boom, now you've made it. Mm-hmm. Everybody can do it. No, the story, there's been so many people grinding behind the scenes, putting it in. You just haven't, some of these projects never saw the day of light, but it doesn't change what they gained in experience and in exposure. It's just that story being told that way isn't sexy. And what we will do, unfortunately, is we will recreate our own history and tell you that that was our story, because we will get in and forget where we came from in a heartbeat.
Oh, and I can tell you some stories because everything he's saying is so true. Not only, I mean, for us, that's why I've always tried to be honest about it, but I've been around for a long time. But I can tell you, and I know you guys know Faison Love, right? Faison Love that was in, Friday?
Yeah.
I know Faison.
Big one.
I drove Faison to Culver City to Sony so he could do Bebe's Kid. Okay.
Oh wow.
That's how way back I go to all those kinds of people. And if you were to ask him to this day, even though he knows me and we're cool though, but at the same time, there's other people that I have been in the room with and helped and done things, and they're like, "Oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember that." And it's like, "Oh, come on, really?" Mm-hmm. It's like there's no reason. I mean, we're all out there grinding, but
all those stories that tie us together. That's
you would think. That would make it,
Yeah. And I also say the one thing you can't do is you can't let that turn you and become resentful. Mm-hmm. Because now the moment you have your interviews or you have a little bit of shine on you when you're talking, people don't know your story. So all of a sudden you come across as bitter. Mm-hmm. As, why he just got into the business, why he got an attitude. So, but again, they don't know the story that you have gone through. So it's just, man, it's a process, and it's all a story. And you try to laugh it off, because if you wasn't laughing, you'd probably be upset at a lot of what was going on. But again, whenever I get to this, I always think, why did I get into this from the first place? Mm-hmm. And not at any point did I ever say, well, I want to make a filmmaker be a filmmaker because filmmakers make money. I want to be a filmmaker because I'm a visual storyteller. That's how I see things. That's how, honestly, and thinking the world makes sense to me as a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Do you find that that's hard to turn off? That you like?
Oh, my God,
I mean,
extremely hard
to do is watch movies. Like for me, like what he was saying about what made him get into it. For me, I'd always loved film, but I always, because being from the Midwest, you know, your family's like, "Are you crazy? You can't become a filmmaker. You need to be something practical." So I was going to be a veterinarian. That's what I came out to California to go to school.
Oh, wow.
But in my free time, I was in front of the TV watching movies and knowing all the history about movies. And I think even to this day, I'm still that way. If there's a good movie, I get my big old thing of popcorn and I'm just sitting there. I mean, I still love movies and TV, and that's why I do it, because anything that you can think of, and the fact that you can bring it to fruition, like all these projects that we're doing, because even our latest film, oh my God, we're so excited about it, and hopefully we can talk about it a couple minutes. It's such an amazing film.
Go ahead.
Yeah, of course.
So excited.
Yeah.
We love The Color Medicine, and we're glad it got made, and all of our other previous movies. But Brian and I, people kind of put us in a box like, oh, you guys are documentarians. No, just because we just made 3 documentaries back to back doesn't mean that that's all we do. But we've got a whole bunch of other stuff, but we do narratives as well. And we had done this short video that I directed called Welcome to the Neighborhood. And Brian shot it and I directed, and it did so well. Like this site picked it up because they were like, wow, this is really a great story and everything. And we were looking at these 2 kids and we were thinking, wow, you know, we should do something with this. And I always had this thing about Nancy Drew, because I love Nancy Drew stories. I love Agatha Christie. I love, you know, Sherlock Holmes. I have like all those books. I mean, I'm sad to say I'm a nerd that way, but I am. And Brian and I would talk about it, and he loved Encyclopedia Brown. So we said, you know what, we should do a movie about that. And I mean, when you talk about talking about something and then actually bringing it to fruition, it is absolutely insane that we actually have a new movie coming out in less than 30 days called Hidden Orchard Mysteries.
Yes, ma'am.
The case of the Airbnb robbery. Yeah. And it's a fun, amazing film that Brian directed. And he wrote the script, and I kind of gave him the story, but regardless, he gets all the credit. But it's a fun film, and we're so proud of it. And Hidden Orchard is actually the street that Dr. Robinson and I and Becky lived on. It's a real street.
We call it. It's, you know, as they use the term, it's our new the new Nancy Drew. Is where we're calling Nancy
Drew, because it's 2 girls of color, and that's the reason why we did it, was because I felt like, why does, you know, one ethnicity get to have all the fun, you know? And especially as kids, because Jeffrey, that you're an educator. And I think, you know, when your students may see themselves in the storyline, that makes them feel so proud. And that's sort of the responses that we've gotten, is that people say, wow, my daughter who's Black can say she's a detective, you know? He didn't have that growing up, but you know what? They're gonna have it now.
And then it's, again, sitting back, instead of waiting for somebody to give us the opportunity to tell their story, creating an opportunity for ourselves. We didn't sit back and think, oh my God, what is the market missing? What's gonna make the most money? It's, again, you know, what do we enjoy doing? What are the stories that we enjoy telling? Let's go tell one of those stories. And I also think, I know me personally, coming off of the 3 documentaries, I was definitely looking to do something narrative and maybe a little bit more lighthearted, because I started thinking in all these camera angles, and in documentaries, there's not as much camera movement, but it's still figuring out creative ways to tell the story. So to be able to have the opportunity to tell this movie, and then also it was the first time we shot in Atlanta.
Yeah, we had never done anything. And you know, you hear about Atlanta. And we had friends who lived there, and they kept trying to tell us, oh, you guys need to come to Atlanta to film. And this is a testament to, it doesn't matter, like I said in my 5, you know, reasons that you were saying of gems to give. Film anywhere, in any state, anywhere. Once you get the principles down of how to do what you need to do, and you have someone who has done it before, so basically it's about the experience. I know that I can go into any city or any state that I haven't been and go in and say, okay, this is how I'm going to go about doing it. And you follow that same formula. And, you know, of course, you're going to have different bumps in the road and things may not be as smooth or maybe even smoother than Atlanta. But it's just when we got there and everything just fell into place, it was the perfect place to film. And I loved it.
I would say everything fell into place except one thing, because this was the film we were trying to get you to come out for, Bo. But we couldn't get in your schedule. But that's okay, because the distributors, they want a part 2. So you are being written into the part 2.
I'm there. Let me know.
I'm in this one, when we do see the movie, the guy who's the school teacher, we were going to have you play it, and the girls, of course, would be like, oh, God, he's so cute, you know, but we ended up getting like an older,
I got something much juicier for you, you know, because now in the second one, it's almost like, look at, like, this is what I love, again, about storytelling. The first film in, like, every superhero story, it's the origin story. It's like, wow, I could give you so much, but I got to give you their backstory and how he got to this point. Now, once I've done that, and you know what he can do, and you know all their powers. Now, on the second one, we just pull the ripcord and let him go. Fun. So we'll definitely be able to kind of, I think, up the stakes a little bit in this new one. And I think the character that I have in mind for you is much. I'm actually glad that I didn't waste you in the first one for what you can come in and do with this one. And also, we're going to incorporate a lot more music in the second one as well.
Oh yeah, you know, we got lots of artists here that'll be more than happy to see y'all music.
And as long as they own the rights to the music and all that,
that's one reason I was vibing out so much when I was up there. I was actually trying to open up my edit while I was listening and just sample. How would this go with this scene? How would this go with this scene? Because man, y'all had so many different flavors. Yes, that would.
So you really can't ever turn it off.
No, it doesn't. Honestly, sometimes I really wish that I could let my body get rest and put my head in the refrigerator, because it just goes constantly. I'm even when I'm at sleep thinking I can figure things out in my sleep and get up and it's just you just wake up tired. But when that creative process is going, it's very hard to turn off. It's actually a film I did that I've been exploring. I want to do about a guy who gets trapped in his own creative process where he doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's fake. Yeah.
But just always, guys, we would love it if you guys can promote, you know, that The Color Medicine is out now, and it's
absolutely
formats. Definitely. Fandango, Vudu, Google Play, Amazon Prime. You can order the DVD, or if you want to just watch it, it's out. And Hidden Orchard Mysteries is coming out June 16th. But the DVD
on IMDb.
It's coming out.
Do you guys have a website for it?
Yes. Well, it's Hidden Orchard Mysteries movie.com, but we're still in the process of promoting it. Yes, so all the social media, tell them the website, no, not yet. That one's we're working on that right now. But as far as the Twitter and the Facebook and the Instagram, it's all there. It's already up and running. Yeah. So if they want to find out about it, they can go there. And we're actually about to put out a really big campaign starting this weekend. And I was going to go all the way until the movie. And please come to the virtual.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, we're going to have a virtual premiere for it. We want to invite you guys. And any cast that you know, like in music, let us know. We'll send you guys, a couple passes for people to come in and be a part of the virtual premiere.
Sure.
And Bo, I want to talk to you because you may end up. I'm going to talk to you about performing, because Janessa's going to perform before the event. And your song is featured in there also. So we may want to talk to you about possibly performing also, just to make the whole night an event.
Most definitely, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I just thought about that. Yeah, because that's that's where I used. I think it's Cream.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, definitely.
We'll make that happen.
All right, cool.
Man, it's been a pleasure for having you guys on here.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you.
It was
definitely. I definitely want to talk to you too, Haiku, because I went in and checked out some of your music too, man. And I really I can see why you and Bo hooked up. I could see, because there's a similarity and then there's a difference. You still have your own style. But when I was going through just looking at types of music, I really liked some of the stuff that you were doing, man. Really.
Thank you.
Even at night when we were listening to tracks, I saw the same track that I was digging. I could see you was actually writing to it at the time. You was like, "Oh, that was gun. That was mine." Yeah, y'all. Again, coming around that same. I'm a big person of energy, and you give off the same energy that Bo gave when we first met him. So I definitely want to do some things with you as far music also with our projects. So that sound that you have is perfect for what we're trying to do. Both of you guys.
Excellent. I'd be honored.
Definitely, not a problem.
It's funny how when you talk about people's experiences in life and how you bring all that to the table in whatever it is that you decide to do. Because I'm sure Bo, probably as an educator, you bring that to your music as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the only reason why I brought it up was because the reason Brian is so enamored. I mean, he's into music a lot, is because he used to be. Didn't you have like your own album and rapping and all that?
We did some things out here in LA, and that's why it was so difficult when I was hearing when you were saying about how people didn't pass stuff along to you. It was kind of the same route that we were going through, but the thing that we went through at the time was, and it's crazy, I heard this from so many people, distributors and everything would be like, we don't know what category to put you guys in. We love the sound. It's not gangster rap. And we really don't know where we would place this.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, but it's the type of, hip hop that I listened to growing up. So even though I don't do it as much, I still know it when I hear it. I get even hired for projects to come in and just change all the music and put the music in their projects. That's why it's beneficial for me knowing cats like you guys who we can get in original music. And also, instead of pulling something from somebody else, I always love to give opportunity to people I know. Like, hold on, I know some music that would be perfect for this.
Yeah.
So that type of thing. But when I hear certain things, certain pieces of music, they just jump out to me. Like Bo's music, when I heard it, it jumped out. When I heard some of your stuff, it jumped out. So I learned to, when I hear that, I don't even question it anymore. I just move on it.
And it was crazy because when we did the music video that's in The Color of Medicine, we were out there because I remember when you guys were out there shooting it, Bo. And Brian, I think you knew you were lip syncing, but you guys had the playback. I couldn't hear anything. And Brian was like, "Oh man, you gotta hear the song and everything." And I mean, I was floored when I heard the song because I only saw the music video, but I didn't know, how it was sounding. And I was like, "Oh my God, this music is amazing!" Right. So it was really cool.
I didn't think something so powerful was gonna come through you because your presentation, you were at school.
You're very humble. Yeah.
It was like it was just almost like when the music came, the S, you hit the S on your chest and just became a whole different person. But that sound and what you were saying, like I said, I was expecting some R&B. I thought you was gonna sing like a school anthem or something. And when I heard it, I was like, "Oh, hold up!" And I thank you so much because I know it was cold as hell. We ran outside in the snow.
Oh yeah,
it was like, cold.
We gotta go. Cold. Yeah, man, it was freezing. I could barely even turn the gears on the camera, but I knew what. Exactly. I was like, "Oh my God, this is the trailer for the movie right here. This is it.
Did say that.
This is it. We got to shoot that right now."
And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And once I saw it and I heard the song, I was like, "Oh my God!" And that's that. What is it? Synchronicity. Like you just never know. That's why I say about always saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
You never know where it's gonna lead you.
But this has been blessings. Thank you guys so much, man. This has just been an honor to come on with you guys, and I'm honored again, to be able to tell, again, because I keep saying this isn't our story, to be able to tell a story that means so much to so many people in St. Louis and to our people, for it to have a special place to that means the world to me.
It means a lot to everybody that's African American in the U.S. and abroad. You know, St. Louis is the precipice of where it began, but it really is an African American historical story that we all around the world, and we're so happy that now that's what's going to happen. So there'll be someone out there that'll get a chance to discover it, and who knows what they'll do with it from that point.
Yeah. Very appreciative. We've been wanting to get, like, us as being involved in music, wanted to step outside of that, and so our fan base is a lot of other musicians and people who are fan of St. music, and I've been watching a lot of people who are viewing and sharing this interview right now. Just like myself, attributing everything to what they have. Like, you got the gems that you guys have are so applicable to everything as far as entertainment goes, or not even entertainment, just base motivation for life. if any career path that you choose, if it was veterinarian or whatever, like these gems that you guys are sharing are so valuable for any walk of life. So I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate like trying to step out of the music part. I feel like people think of St. Louis as music, and the more, especially the historical parts of us, like the more attention that we can bring to all the St. Louis as a city as a whole has to offer. I really appreciate that you guys are helping us do that, because this city is a remarkable place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really think that the projects that you guys are working on will help highlight and accentuate that. So I really appreciate that.
Oh no, definitely. Thank you for the compliment, because that means, you know, again, the world to people that aren't from there. So it lets us know that we did the story, you know, some form of justice.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
In everyone's life, there's, you know, you will always, even if you go to your grave, there'll be that one thing that you can be very proud of.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is that thing for me. This will be in the library and in the, you know, all the world, you know, schools for forever. Mm-hmm. And I'm just glad to have been able to bring that to fruition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem, you guys.
Man, it's hopefully we can get you guys back on the show soon.
Definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, we'd love to come back anytime.
We definitely appreciate you guys. You guys dropped a lot of gems. I'm pretty sure that all of the viewers definitely appreciated the conversation tonight. And make sure you guys check out The Color of Medicine. That is out. You can catch it on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Fandango now, and other cable outlets.
Definitely. Thank you guys. Check us out.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. You guys enjoy the rest of the evening.
Definitely. You guys have a good one too. Thank you guys so much.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You as well.
Definitely.
Did you end the boat? Wow.
About to end it. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Friday we got the song battle. Stephen Clare versus Malik Jordan from Detroit. And my dude Malik got them bars, bro. But
my money's on Steve.
But Steve ain't no. Hey, Steve is a monster. So it's gonna be a good one. We'll see y'all tomorrow night, 8 p.m.
Sharp.
Yeah.